Welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and something that we've been talking about for quite a while, actually, a treatment for PTSD and another kind of step up in mental health therapy. And we talk about that on the program all the time for veterans. And there's some exciting new developments in that area. Dr. Lori Davis is with us. She's the Associate Chief of Staff for Research and Development Service for the VA Medical Center in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And she's also the lead researcher in this new trial for veterans that we're really excited about. Dr. Davis, how are you?
I'm doing well. And yes, I'm very proud of the service I gave to the Tuscaloosa V as Associate Chief of Staff for Research, but I recently stepped down from that so that I could be the senior research investigator and lead principal investigator of this pivotal, largest funded VA study of psilocybin for the treatment-resistant depression and comorbid post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's a real honor to lead the charge on this multi-site study, including 5 VAs: Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Portland, Seattle, and Philadelphia. And I really couldn't do it without those other medical centers with those experts, as well as colleagues at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Particularly Dr. Peter Hendricks has been so valuable in helping guide this trial.
Well, it's such important work, and we've been pushing for this for quite a while, as have been a lot of people. Do you ever think you'd see this day?
Well, it was taking us 2.5 years to get here, so I'm finally glad to see this day.
Right.
And really, I think I've stepped on the stairwell of others that have built it before me over the past decade to bring this novel type of treatment to a large clinical trial that has really focused on the veteran population in the VA setting.
Well, and we talk to veterans every single day on this show, and a lot of them have told us just kind of anecdotally or in other ways how much this has really helped them to maintain a level of living, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And so for you guys to examine this and bring it out in the open is great news. And, I think a lot of veterans have talked about this for quite a while, to have a trial where it can be monitored and looked at and studied. And I know you guys are going to, how long is the trial here?
Okay. Well, for the individual participant, it's about 8 months, but our timeline could accelerate, but currently it's going to take about 4 years. But I'll tell you, I think that's going to accelerate. I think our enrollment will be very ahead of schedule at all times, given the interest and the and really how veterans want to have access to this novel treatment. But you're right. The first aim is to see how well it works for depression and post-traumatic stress disorder in veterans. The second is safety. And I think that's very comforting that the trial is in a VA setting. So this psychedelic experience of psilocybin will be in a clinically supervised environment with 2 healthcare professionals who are trained not only in mental health, management of anxiety or other, mental distress, but also trained in the psychedelic effects of psilocybin and the management of that.
And will there be 60s music playing?
Oh, that's a great question. I love the 60s music, of course.
Me too.
And it's just would be wonderful if we had, that range of selection. But the playlist is standardized across the sites to be instrumental. We don't want lyrics in the music because that might actually interfere with innate processing of their own insight, their own imagination, their own processing of past life experiences. So we're really sticking to an instrumental, either classical, jazz, or spa-like music that has already been tried and true in the other clinical trials that have gone on outside the VA.
How interesting. I was
Yeah.
actually just kidding. And but that, it makes perfect sense to have some kind of mood music happening, and
Uh,
uh, and to let them kind of take their own journey there. That's pretty cool. How do veterans have they already been selected for the trial, or if they haven't been, how do veterans sign up for this?
Okay, that's a great question. Let me say that I appreciate your airing this and stimulating the awareness of it. So there are on the clinicaltrials.gov, each site, each medical center is listed with a contact information. So if they don't know, the site again is clinicaltrials.gov, and they can basically search the name Pivot. That stands for Psilocybin Intervention for Veterans Overcoming Treatment-Resistant Depression, and find that information. Please be patient with our teams. We're fielding a lot of calls and emails. We are going to get back to everyone. And then we really, right now, as we're launching the trial, we're taking veterans who live or can be in the proximity of those 5 medical centers. Trying to extend the reach right now, I think would not be safe. I think we've got to really get some clear understanding of the clinical trial itself, and then we can maybe go outside the catchment area of these VA medical centers. And then another thing to think about is other trials are being funded, and the VA is considering in their research portfolio. So stay tuned. Something in your own area could be the next study funded and offered. So
That's exciting. It's so exciting. We're talking to Dr. Lori Davis here on the National Defense, and let's talk about psilocybin just a little bit. I don't know much about it at all. I just from what I've heard from veterans that it's been helpful. But what exactly are we talking about there?
Right. So psilocybin is a class of drug under the psychedelics, and it is found chemically in a botanical mushroom
Hmm.
species. However, in the study, we can't, give botanical mushrooms. There's no way to regulate the dose or the
Right.
quality or the safety. So this is a synthetic pharmaceutical grade manufactured in a pharmaceutical laboratory. It's quite an easy molecule to create.
Hmm.
And so we have an exact milligram in a capsule. So I want to make it clear we're not using the botanical mushroom, and we are using a dose that's already really been tested within the industry sponsored trials outside the VA, really all over the country, and European countries as well. And so we are carefully selecting the dose, and again, in that clinical environment, for one thing, you know what you're getting. There's not if you get the street drug, sometimes those can have been tampered with,
Hmm.
adulterated, laced with deadly, lethal other drugs. So amphetamines sometimes get laced in with psilocybin products, because that's, I don't know, cheaper or different. So
Just
that's kind of what
accessible.
we're clear. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what is a psychedelic doing? That's maybe what you might have been asking rather than
Hmm.
just the pharmaceutical part of it.
Yeah, well, it's all fascinating to me, Doctor, about first of all, very homeopathic remedies that are coming to light now, and what we're taking away in learning from nature. And I just think that is fascinating. And I think it's great that the VA is investigating that and looking at that and learning from that as well. And I know just from working with the VA for many years that the VA has been at the forefront of so many different things, whether it's medical machines, medical procedures, and things like that. And this is just another great example of that.
It really is. Now, we're concerned about the really difficult to treat depression. So you mentioned homeopathic and it might be used medicinally, but this is for serious conditions of depression that has failed to respond to at least two other really good treatments that work for most people. So the first line antidepressant medications and psychotherapy luckily works for a large number of people. But then there are about a third of the population of people with depression just seem to not respond, and that's called treatment-resistant depression. And the veterans I have that I see with that, they're very closed down, avoidant, emotionally numb, just really not seeing our ability to feel pleasure and interest in activities is really thwarped. And so the psychedelic medications bring about a release of a very important neurotransmitters that help mood, anxiety, and thinking, cognitive thoughts. And a lot of people with very serious depression and PTSD, their brain is very rigid, the networks, and that brings about ruminations. And you've probably had people on your show or in your life that are so depressed, but they can't seem to stop talking in certain very dark ways. And there's literally rigid brain networks. And psilocybin brings about neuroplasticity, opening up these connections, making new connections. So there's a psychology and a biology to opening up awareness, insight, and frankly, positive emotions.
That's so exciting. And the other part of that is too, you mentioned, brain function and that kind of thing. It's amazing to me how much we are still learning about our brains,
Right.
Isn't it?
It is.
Dr. Davis, what is your background in
I'm a
terms of?
psychiatrist. I'm a psychiatrist. And
Okay.
I've been working in the VA for over 30 years, conducting clinical trials, not only medications, but psychotherapy, mindfulness, supported employment, trying to get veterans back to competitive jobs as part of their therapy.
Yep.
Work is their therapy in those situations. And also now we have novel brain stimulating devices and other non-pharmacologic neurofeedback type treatments that we're testing. So technology has really helped. The brain scans, the neuroimaging that can go on now to really see the living brain and how these treatments can affect the living brain, and also talk to the person who's had that experience, that lived experience.
Right.
That's a real source of good information.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really going to be interesting to see once these trials are happening and you're gathering that kind of information, like you talked about, from the person themselves, and just the idea of, I think we're finding out so much more now about the brain and about how everything is connected to the brain. And I'm even talking about food and nutrition,
Yes.
which is also very important for brain health, right?
And I'll make a plug for exercise.
Oh,
Exercise
absolutely.
is a very important brain health activity.
Yes.
So it helps reduce and cleanse stress hormones and sort of metabolites of stress that is not just physical but chemical build up in the body. Now, again, back to our study, we're not just having a person come in and take psilocybin. This has wrapped around supported counseling. Some people might not even refer to it counseling because it's not like it's not is cognitive behavioral therapy or prolonged exposure therapy. The participant would meet with the trained provider to have 3 meetings to prepare for the psilocybin administration day, understanding its expected effects, potential side effects, and what are they interested in learning about themselves or processing about their lives. Begin to have sort of a preparation for the day of dosing. They'll come the night before, or if they live close enough that they have to have a driver at the end of the day. When they come in, it's a clinical room, but it has a certain setting to take away that clinic hospital feel, comfortable chair or recliner. They have headphones and eye shades. And the 2 clinically trained licensed providers are there to ensure the safety and comfort. And so then the action of the psilocybin wears off about 4 to 6 hours after taking it. So by the time they leave the office, they're not under the influence of the psilocybin, safely go with their trusted significant other to be driven home. And we check up then the very next day, 24 hours later, 72 hours later, how are you doing? And then they have 2 more meetings with the provider who's going to do what we call an integration psychological support, talk about their experience and what's next.
Wow, that's great. That is really a complete picture of what you're doing here, and this is so exciting. Will you do me a favor? And once the trials are done, come back on and let us know what happened, where you are, what you've accomplished, and so we can let everybody know. That's just
one last thing I need to remind your listeners and viewers about is, so far the psilocybin compounds are not FDA approved, so they're still under a Schedule I drug. Sure. And only in certain states do they have some type of legal access. But for now, the access is under a research protocol, and but this class of drugs are being reviewed by the FDA for potentially going to get FDA approved, and then that'll be interesting to see how that rolls out within the healthcare system.
Well, and I think the VA's role in that is certainly needed and necessary, especially for our veterans. So, Dr. Davis, thank you so much for the time, and this is just this is going to be very, very cool to follow.
All right, appreciate your interest. Thanks for covering this.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back here on the National Defense.